What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my final thoughts and picks for Week 16 of the NFL. Really looking forward to get into it. And really fun week. We have a 10-game slate here. Lots of value opened up throughout the past 24 to 48 hours. So we're going to talk about that. And other than that, as always, going to go into my favorite 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 plays from each position. Not going to go into every single play I'm looking at, but just the ones that I'm going to be highest on in my lineup. So as always, if you guys can leave a like on this video, it helps out a ton. Subscribe if you have not yet. Again, helps out a ton trying to reach that 10,000 subscriber goal. And with that out of the way, let's get into it, starting with the quarterbacks here. And obviously, the number one option at quarterback on the slate is going to be Patrick Mahomes at 8,500 versus Atlanta. In this game, you have a 54-point game total, which is the highest on the slate, and the Chiefs are going to be 10.5-point favorites. So Mahomes is averaging 27.8 DraftKings points per game, and he is really expensive, but he is doable with all the value that has opened up on the slate as of late. Great stackable options, of course, Kelce, Hill, Watkins, Hardman, the list goes on, and just tons of upside against a very poor Falcons passing defense. I mean, you really can't ask for a better matchup here against the Falcons defense that is not very good, to say the least. So I just think it's a potential shootout here in a game with the highest total on the slate. I expect Mahomes to be, probably, he's going to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate before an absolute good reason. He has a ton of upside here against Atlanta. So, yeah, going to be very, very heavy on Mahomes here. I like the Mahomes, Kelce stack, Mahomes, Kelce, Hill. It's actually doable this week with all the value that's opened up, but I do think there's different ways to approach a Mahomes stack. There's tons of guys you can stack him with. Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, somewhere that's really cheap. So all over Mahomes this week, and rightfully so against Atlanta here. Going down a little bit, and I do like Deshaun Watson. Not going to touch on him here, though. Going down to Jalen Hurts at 7,000 versus Dallas. And yeah, Hurts has been absolutely insane. Last week he had a crazy, crazy game, scoring 40.8 DraftKings points. And in this game, it is a 49.5-point game total where the Eagles are 2-point favorites. And yeah, like I mentioned, 64 DraftKings points in his first 2 starts for Hurts. He has tons of rushing yard upside, 29 rushing attempts in his first 2 starts. So I really like Hurts here, especially as a cash game play. Just a solid matchup against this Dallas defense. I know Dallas's defense has been looking better as of late, but I'm still not overly concerned about that. And I just love this play for cash. Has some tournament upside as well. The problem with me, and this is why I'm not going to this play in all that many tournaments, but I don't really like the stacking options. Dallas Goedert, somebody you can stack him with, but other than that, there's not really anything that sticks out. So in tournaments, I guess you can play him by himself. I think that's fine. It's been working out the past couple weeks for him, but I like it better for cash. I really do. But yeah, regardless, he's a very good play at 7,000 with that rushing yard upside, and definitely having him in cash here. And then the final guy I want to talk about. So I did like Baker Mayfield before they lost, pretty much all their weapons, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't mind Mitchell Trubisky. I do think he'll gain some ownership, but what I'm looking at down here for kind of a pump play is going to be Matt Ryan, 5,800 versus Kansas City. You have that 54-point game total where the Falcons are going to be 10.5-point underdogs, which I do like for Matt Ryan here. And Ryan is averaging 18.9 DraftKings points. And the thing I like about this play is they should be coming from behind, leading to more passing attempts from Ryan. And Ryan throws the ball a ton in general, averaging over 36 passing attempts per week. I remember last year it was closer to 50, so he hasn't thrown the ball as much this year, but this is a game that he really, really should throw the ball a ton. You have solid stacking options. Julio Jones out, but they still have Ridley, Gage, and even Hayden Hurst. And there's touchdown upside in what should be the highest total on the slate, or what is the highest total on the slate. So just looking at it here, last week he did throw the ball 49 times, scored 30.8 DraftKings points. I feel like he very well should throw the ball another close to 50 times this game in a game they should be trailing probably the whole time. So Matt Ryan at 5,800, somebody that's going to throw the ball a ton. I like it a lot. So Matt Ryan is my pump play for this week. Other than that, going down, not much really sticks out. Like I mentioned, Trubisky's fine, but he will gain some ownership for sure. Getting into the running backs, and yeah, lots of options I like. I'm going to go 4 options here, 4 or 5 options. Nick Chubb is very, very interesting at 7,800 versus the Jets with a 45-point game total, where the Browns are going to be 7-point favorites, which I do like that for Chubb. And Chubb is averaging 18.9 DraftKings points per week and should see about 15 to 20 touches here. And I just love this matchup and this game script from versus the Jets here. And the Browns are missing a ton of weapons on offense, which should make the Browns lean on Chubb a little bit more here as well. And they lean on him a lot, in general. So the Browns should be out ahead, leading to more carries for Chubb also. Would not be surprised if he found the end zone, maybe found the end zone twice. So I like Chubb a lot at 7,800. And other than that, David Montgomery right below him, I like a lot, 7,700. I won't really get into that, but he has been absolutely on fire as of late. So I like Montgomery as well. Going down to 5,800, we have Le'Veon Bell, 5,800 versus Atlanta. And here we have that 54-point game total, which is the highest on the slate, where the Chiefs are going to be 10.5-point favorites, which I do like for Bell here. And he is averaging only 7 DraftKings points per week, but the big thing here is Clyde Edwards-Helaire is doubtful, or I believe he's out, giving Bell a huge opportunity here against this poor Atlanta defense. And I just love this price at 5,800. I think he has a lot of upside. I think this is a potential shootout that should lead to some touchdowns for Bell. And the Chiefs being big favorites, I do think should lead to more Bell carries. And don't get me wrong, the Chiefs are going to pass the ball a ton, but I think some of those passes will go to Bell. So I think Bell at 5,800 is an absolutely fantastic play. And I don't think it's going to be as high owned as I thought as well. So just that alone, I like a lot more. So give me Le'Veon Bell at 5,800. And going down, and this is a play I really like here. Melvin Gordon, 5,600 versus the Chargers. And you have a 48-point game total, where the Broncos are 3-point underdogs. And he is averaging 13.8 DraftKings points per game. And you got the revenge game narrative here versus the Chargers, his old team. And the big thing here is Phillip Lindsay is out, which should give Gordon the majority of the touches here. It just seems way too cheap for the amount of volume I believe he's going to get here. And yeah, touchdown upside and a sneaky high total of 48 points here. So yeah, I like Gordon a lot at 5,600. I think he's way too cheap. I think he has a ton of upside here. Going down to the final play I do want to talk about, and that's going to be a pump play of Giovanni Bernard, 4,800. You got the 49.5-point game total, where the Bengals are 8.5-point underdogs. So he is averaging 9.9 DraftKings points. Had a rough stretch of 5 games, all scoring under 10 points. A lot of those games, Joe Mixon was out, and I was expecting a lot more, but he finally went off against a very, very tough Pittsburgh defense, so that was very interesting there. And in that Pittsburgh game, he did have 25 rushing attempts and 1 reception. And I'm not expecting the same usage, but still, he's way too cheap at 4,800 against Houston, which has one of the worst run defenses in the league, one of the worst defenses in the league in general. So at 4,800, I like it. I think he's way too cheap, and I know he hasn't been great, the past couple games, but, last week he did have a breakout game against Pittsburgh, a good defense, and this is a really bad defense against the Texans, so just a pump play here to think about. Other pump play I was looking at was Darrell Henderson, 4,500. I don't hate that, but we're going to get into the wide receivers now, starting with the obvious play up top. That is going to be Tyreek Hill, 9,000. I've just been playing this guy the past couple weeks, and it's been really been working out. And Tyreek Hill, 9,000 here versus Atlanta. You got the 54-point game total, where the Chiefs are going to be 10.5-point favorites. And Hill's averaging 23.4 DraftKings points per game, 17 touchdowns on the year, and over 1,200 receiving yards. And just a dream matchup here against this poor Atlanta Falcons passing defense. Falcons are dead last in DraftKings points given up to opposing wide receivers. So Hill is coming in a little bit beat up, but he is expected to play here. And if he does play, you can't really ask for a better matchup. The only thing I'm worried about is if they do limit Tyreek Hill. I know they are probably going to want to save him for the playoffs, want him healthy for the playoffs and all that. And if they do get out too far ahead, maybe they will pull him. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about. But when he is playing, he has so much upside here against this Atlanta Falcons passing defense. And yeah, multiple touchdown upside as well, and what's projected to be the highest total on the slate. So yeah, I like Tyreek Hill. I think he has probably the highest upside out of any wide receiver on the slate. So give me Tyreek Hill at 9,000. Going to have a decent amount. But like I mentioned, there are some concerns. So this is a play I really like here. It is Calvin Ridley, 8,500 versus Kansas City. You got that 54-point game total, which is the highest on the slate. Falcons being 10.5-point underdogs, which I really do like for Ridley here. And he is averaging 21.1 DraftKings points per game. And the big thing here is Julio Jones is out, giving Ridley another huge opportunity here. And he did have the really good game last week, scoring 35.3 DraftKings points against Tampa Bay. And there's tons of upside here in a game that the Falcons should be trailing most of the time, if not the whole time. Potential garbage time upside if the Falcons do fall too far behind, which is definitely possible. And just touchdown upside in what's projected to be the highest total on the slate. The Falcons are probably going to be scoring touchdowns. Who's going to score them? I think there's a good chance that it's going to be Calvin Ridley here. So, Calvin Ridley, 8,500. I like it a lot. Going down a little bit, McLaurin is doubtful. We'll talk about that in a little bit, what it opens up. But Deontay Johnson, 6,300 versus the Colts here. And a 43-point game total, which is one of the lowest on the slate. And the Steelers are 1.5-point favorites. Johnson is averaging 15 DraftKings points per game, and he is the #1 pass-catching option on the Steelers. And what I like about the Steelers is they throw the ball a ton. And he is averaging 12.6 targets per game in the games where he was fully healthy, which it wasn't a lot of games this year, but he's been healthy as of late. It just seems way too cheap for the amount of upside that Johnson brings, and should be lower owned here with a kind of a tough matchup against the Colts. A lot of people are really high on this Colts defense. I'm not really one of those people, but I do think Johnson has a ton of upside at probably low ownership at a decent price as well. So I like Johnson a lot at 6,300. Going down more to T. Higgins, if I can find him. T. Higgins, 4,700 versus Houston. Got the 45.5-point game total where the Bengals are 8.5-point underdogs. So Tyler Boyd is out with a concussion. And so Higgins should be first in line here for more targets. And he is averaging about 8 targets in his last 7 games. So getting, decent amount of targets. And with Boyd out, it's only going to increase here. Very good matchup against this poor Houston defense. And should be coming from behind, leading to more passing attempts for the Bengals. And just seems way too cheap regardless. Even if Boyd was playing, it still seems way too cheap here for T. Higgins at 4,700. So I think he's a really good play here. Lots of value, especially with Boyd not playing. And then I do want to touch on a few pump plays. I'm probably going to type one in, but so the Browns are missing some very key players, and we'll talk about that. But we'll talk about Cam Sims first. So McLaurin's out. So Sims is going to be the #1 wide receiver on the team. 8 targets last week, and that was with so he was 3,300 last week. He is going to be 3,300 again this week. And he's the #1 wide receiver on the team. He's going to get a decent amount of targets, probably for the price. And those McLaurin targets have to go to somebody. I do think they'll go to Thomas, McKissick, maybe Gibson. But yeah, Sims is probably the next guy up from the wide receiver position. So just something to think about at 3,300. So value play there. And the other value on play I want to talk about is going to be, going to type him in here, so I have to look for him. Marvin Hall for Cleveland versus the Jets, 3,000 minimum price. You get the 45-point game total here where the Browns are 7-point favorites. Minimum price pump play here, and the Browns are missing Landry, Higgins, Peoples-Jones, and Hodge. So just with that, Hall now becomes the wide receiver 1 for Cleveland at 3,000. Very good matchup here against this poor Jets defense. And actually, I'll be honest, I was all over the Landrys, the Higgins, the Peoples-Jones, and the Baker Mayfield stacks all week until, those guys were out. And now that Marvin Hall's 3,000, then one option at the wide receiver position for Cleveland, I mean, that's so intriguing there. Just such a good matchup as well, and just solid upside overall at a very cheap price. And you really don't need much at $3K, but I actually think there's some really good upside here with Marvin Hall at 3,000. I mean, there's like no other wide receivers on the team, so Marvin Hall should do fine at 3,000. I would honestly be happy with like 10 DraftKings points, but I would not be surprised if he, exceeded that expectation, honestly. All right, so now getting into the tight ends a little bit. And of course, the man up top, Travis Kelce, 8,500 is a really good play. If you can afford him, that's awesome. Going down to Logan Thomas at 4,900. If you do want to save some salary at tight end, I know Travis Kelce is kind of hard to get to this week, but there's tons of value. But if you can't get to him, I think Logan Thomas is a very, very good play at 4,900. I know they did price up a little bit, for 4,000 last week, 4,100 this week. He was 3,300 in week 14, 3,100 in week 13, and he's now 4,900 here against Carolina. You got the 44.5-point game total where Washington is 2.5-point favorites, averaging 11 DraftKings points per week. And he's been going off as of late, scoring 26, 10, 24, and 13 in his last 4 games. So I've been playing Logan Thomas pretty much all year. And to start out the season, did not do well. I mean, he was still getting a lot of targets, but was not playing like how I expected to. And now it's finally cool to see him actually, doing something with the targets he's getting, because he does get those targets. He's been getting them all season, but now he's finally doing something with them. And he did get 15 targets last week as well. And averaging a little bit over 10 targets in the last 3 games. Solid matchup here against the Panthers team, who isn't really great against the tight end. I just think Logan Thomas is going to get a ton of targets. With McLaurin out, I think Thomas is going to get so many targets. He got 15 last week with McLaurin playing, so I can't even imagine. I think there is like 10 plus target upside here for Logan Thomas. I would be kind of shocked if he did not hit that 10 target mark, and 4,100 is not a bad price, but I believe it is the highest price of Logan Thomas all year. Going down, 2 more guys I do want to talk about. Dallas Goedert, I'm going to keep playing him. 3,600 versus Dallas. 49.5 point game total, where Eagles are 2-point favorites. And he is averaging 11.3 DraftKings points per week. And Ertz hasn't returned, of course, but he's still getting some decent targets. 8 targets last week versus Arizona. Solid matchup against this Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense has been getting better, but just seems way too cheap still here at 3,600. And I really don't mind a Goddard and Hurts stack this week. I've been doing it the past couple weeks. It's been working out pretty good. But Goddard's not bad at 3,600. And I wasn't going to go to this next play until, as we mentioned, all those Browns wide receivers are out. I think Austin Hooper's definitely in play. 3,500 versus the Jets, where the Browns are 7-point favorites. And a minimum price pump play here, not minimum price, but 3,500 pump play here, averaging 7.8 DraftKings points per week. And he should see an increase of targets with the Browns missing Landry, Higgins, Peoples-Jones, Hodge. They're all out, so just a very cheap option here with some upside against a poor Jets passing defense. Would not be surprised if Hooper found the end zone, or did very, very well also. So I think Hooper is a very good play here at 3,500. All right, not going to get into defense too much. Like, honestly, not much sticks out. I think the Bears is a really good option at 3,600 versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville missing James Robinson. Other than that, going down. I think the Texans are going to be popular. Not the best defense in the world, but going against Cincinnati, missing Boyd, missing Mixon, I think they're fine. I think the Seahawks are interesting. The Seahawks defense has been looking really good as of late. I know they haven't been playing the best competition in the world as of late, but they've been looking solid. Going against the Rams here, Goff has turned the ball over in the past couple games quite a bit. Panthers are okay. I mean, the Washington missing McLaurin. Other than that, those are probably the main four I'm going to, or probably just punt down, but the punts are so bad this week. So, yeah, if you can get to them, Bears probably the way to go. My second option would probably be the Texans or Seahawks, and then Panthers final option there. But yeah, the punts are bad this week. So, well, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you can leave a like on the video, as always, helps out a ton. Subscribe if you have not yet. Would really appreciate that. And good luck on Week 16. Look out for all my other content. I'm going to be getting some playoff content coming up in the next couple of weeks here. I'm really looking forward to the playoffs, all that good stuff. And that's about it. And good luck on Week 16.